In this particular session, we'll be looking at transhumanism and what the key features of this particular school of thought within the broad rubric of posthumanism are. So transhumanism is a particular strand within posthumanism, and it foregrounds the human. And as we have already discussed, the posthuman school of thought is divided into people who believe that the human must be enhanced, but which still foregrounds the human, and posthumanists who believe that the human as the center of the universe is no longer a tenable, a viable proposition, because we need to relocate the human within a larger network of other life forms and other non-living species as well. So transhumanists believe that first and foremost, the human being is perfectible, can be improved. It is what Clary Wolfe refers to as the intensification of humanism in one sense. Transhumanists, led by the philosopher Nick Bostrom, argues that the human body is inherently limiting. It's weak, and it's our job, our task, our ethics in fact, to make sure that the weaknesses of the body are transcended. And how are we supposed to do this? We are supposed to transcend through technology, so that we have longer living humans, disease-free humans, and humans with much greater abilities. What those abilities are a moot point. Whether the appreciation of music is a much sought after ability, whether it's the ability to solve math is a better ability, more valuable ability, is a different debate. But the transhumanists believe that the primary focus should be on the perfectibility of the human. Can we improve ourselves? If so, how? How and on what grounds do we do that? So technological intervention, medical intervention, pharmacological intervention are acceptable if they enhance our abilities, help us live longer, and have reduced our risks, as in humanity's risks to illness and other conditions we are prone to. So Nick Bostrom says, and I'm quoting here, transhumanism holds that current human nature is improvable through the use of applied science and other rational methods, which may make it possible to increase human health span, extend our intellectual and physical capacities, and give us increased control over our own mental states and moods. So this is a very well-known definition. It's one which is more or less widely accepted as standing in as a viable definition for posthumanism as a school of thought. So note what he's saying, that human nature is improvable. This has to, by human nature he means both, of course, corporeal, mental, emotional, etc. And it can be done through the use of applied science and other rational methods, which may make it possible to increase human lifespan, our state of health, and extend our intellectual and physical capacities. It may give us more control over our moods, our mental states, and of course our emotional well-being. Philosophically speaking, transhumanism descends from the European Enlightenment's ideals of humanity, where the European ideal was of humanity that can have a triumphant rationality. It has its own agency, and of course that humanity is perfectible, is improvable. So transhumanism is, actually speaking, rooted in a certain 18th century European Enlightenment ethos and way of thought, way of thinking, where they argued that the humans are perfectible. They're not perfect, but they are perfectible, as in with a form or ability that can be improved and made perfect. And that finally triumph will be of rational thinking, of rationality, and that rationality is itself the goal of all agency. So transhumanists believe that rather than leave it to nature to select the fittest, which is the Darwinian theory, that instead of waiting for nature to select who among us is better equipped to deal with the world, better fitted to live in this ecosystem? Why not we do it ourselves? As in, why not humans determine what our prospects of evolution are? What and how, on which trajectory humanity should proceed? Which is to say, we do not have to wait for the survival of the fittest to be executed by the natural selection process. Humanity itself can intervene and an advanced human can emerge at some point. In Federico Ferrando's neat little formulation, the term post-human refers to a stage which might evolve after the current transhuman era. So here the term post is a certain temporal marker. All right. So what does this mean? It means very simply that humans must take the evolution of humanity into their own hands. We don't wait for nature to evolve us, to stop or push us into evolving into certain forms or certain creatures. So the transhumanists believe that humanity's fate should be managed by humans. It's our job. It's our agency. It's our responsibility. So for the transhumanists, there is no such thing as natural selection. No, that's not quite true. There is natural selection, but why wait? So the point is that natural selection takes place over millennia. Our present form and the form of several other creatures, whether it's the common dog or larger creatures such as the hippopotamus or the rhinoceros, these have evolved over millennia. That, as evolutionary biologists will tell us, the human didn't one fine morning appear on the scene. The Homo sapiens that we are evolved over a period of time, and it's a very long period of time. So it's not that we can think of the human as appearing. The human evolved. The question the transhumanists ask is, why should we wait for millennia? Why should we think in terms of centuries and centuries of human evolution? Why can't we do this ourselves? Why can't we determine the course of our evolution ourselves? So for many people like Federico Ferrando, the post-human is after the human, and that will come after the current transhuman era. So transhumanists aspire to eradicate biological flaws, what we call human weaknesses. They also, in contrast to or supplementing this project of eradication of flaws, hope to enhance specific qualities. Like I said at the beginning, is the ability to appreciate music a very valuable virtue or skill? Is the ability to do math a very valuable skill? Or, more interestingly and challengingly, is the ability to feel compassion towards other creatures a more valuable asset or character in the humans? So on the one hand, the transhumanists want eradication of the weaknesses, disease, aging, all sorts of syndromes and conditions that we are subject to. So as we know, when we grow older, we have muscle loss, we have cognitive impairment, our senses fail, all sorts of atrophying actions take place within our body. We experience cell death, we experience memory loss, we lose our teeth, our eyes, etc., etc. And many of you might remember those famous lines of the final stage of man: sans eyes, sans teeth, sans everything. Shakespeare, William. So that's a process, right? Over a period of time, we incur these losses. Transhumanists ask, but why should we? Is there some way of stopping it? Is there some way of reversing or potentially stopping aging? Is there a way of slowing down our process of deterioration? Now we know that people take supplements, people do exercises of various kinds, people change their diet, change their lifestyles so as to help longevity, but also a relatively disease-free life. That humans who seek longer life with good health. So the transhumanists ask, why should we have bad health? Why should our teeth fall out, our vision deteriorates, we have a muscular dystrophy, we have pain in our back, our knee, we put on weight, we have diabetes and cholesterol. Why should we have all those? Why, they ask, can we not improve the present model? It's a bit similar to our upgraded phones or laptops or cars, right? So every year or maybe less than a year, you have a new model out and it will be called upgrade, right? Upgraded or plus. Even detergents have plus, as in the detergent will have a plus version in a couple of years. So the question is, if detergents can, if phones, cars and other devices can, why can't there be an upgraded human? What stops us from thinking that an upgraded human is not worthwhile? Conversely, if we are setting about to eradicate our flaws, our deep-seated corporeal problems, and remember as we age, these problems are at the level of the physical, at the level of the emotional, and at the level of the cognitive or intellectual, right? Our bones weaken, our muscle tone goes, our sensory ability reduces, we become hard of hearing, our vision deteriorates. Then of course there is the emotional instabilities that come in. So converse to this is, if you're eradicating some qualities, why can't we enhance others? Why can't we all be, for example, kinder, gentler people? Why can't we stop flying into murderous rages? Why should we be more and more intolerant towards people who dress differently, people who speak a different language, people who have a different cuisine? Why should we not have humans who are more altruistic, compassionate, caring? So, on the one hand, reduce human weaknesses. On the other, enhance certain qualities which will make us better humans. Which is to say that we continue to believe, as in transhumanists, continue to believe that human reason is primary, humanity is primary. But the transhumanists also believe very clearly in the human-animal divide, that the only creatures who have rationality are the human race. It's often very contested as an argument, as a fact, whether we are unique in these areas or whether other humans, other animals also share these qualities. Okay. Now, since we have already mentioned that the transhumanists believe in the supremacy of rational thinking and rational thought, we can proceed to examine one particular aspect of transhumanist thinking, and that is the mind-body dichotomy. The mind and body are clearly dichotomous in posthumanist visions, and the transhumanists lay particular emphasis on the downloading and uploading of memories, and the cryopreservation of bodies can be revived later. The first downloading and uploading of memories is the result of an assumption that the mind is the most important component of who we are, of who our identities are. And if we can preserve our memories, upload them, clean them up, why not? We should do it. What stops us from doing that? The other is, what do we do with the body? Much science fiction has to do with body modification, right? Right from William Gibson's Neuromancer and the major novels that he wrote, to contemporary novels about AI and others, and not to forget the films of this kind. The question is not just of longevity, like I said, it's about longevity with good health. But what about the deferment of death? Cryopreservation is a way of freezing the body now to be revived, say 200 years later, depending on who wants your body back or who wants you back. When the computer has, for example, become a part of the human today now, is it possible to think of the human traits, human personality as distinct from that of the computer? As in, how much of our personality depends on the impression management we do via computers, via Insta, via the digital, and how much of what we take in determines who we are and how our identity is shaped by our technological devices. I am taking only computers as one example, but you can multiply that with all other forms of technological utilization within which we lead our lives. Then, of course, there is the point in transhumanists that the body is subordinated to the mind. The mind is supreme. The mind is the seat of personality. So preservation of the memories of the mind are far more important than anything else. So the transhumanists, like we began, foreground the human. They don't argue that the human is part of a network. They don't concede that there's a relationality to our lives, that we lead our lives in conjunction with and embedded within a network. For the transhumanists, the human is supreme. The human is where it is. That's a badly formulated phrase, but you get what I'm trying to say, right? So the transhumanists believe essentially in what's called me plus plus. That is the term that W.J. Mitchell used, me plus plus. Like I said, if detergents can be upgraded, if phones can be upgraded, why not humans? This upgrade for transhumanists is often called a human enhancement project. In transhumanism, this emphasis on the mechanization of humans and the humanization of machines is central. So we believe that humans co-evolve with machines, and there the crossover with posthumanism is very clear, and that at somewhere we have to concede the fact that humans routinely live in a condition of a symbiosis with the non-human, the non-living, which is the computer. So humanity, which tries to enhance itself, is linked to this project of being embedded in and symbiotically connected to other machines, and the machine is where our progression comes from. It's, as others have described, transhumanism is an ethical claim that the technological enhancement of capacities is a good thing. This is where the ethics of it comes into play, that the evolution of human, the upgrading of human is a good thing because it gives us additional advantages. So due to its insistence on the uniqueness of the human, its autonomy and rationality, we do not pay much attention. The transhumanists do not pay much attention to questions of the human, of the non-human, of the non-living, because we believe, the transhumanists believe, that the human is at the center of things. All right, that it is the most crucial fulcrum of the universe. Transhumanists are not very concerned about the non-human. They are not very concerned about the non-living forms. They do believe that the non-human, non-living in terms of the machinic and the computers, are a part of us, and but they are not very keen on considering what people like Rossi Braidotti and other posthumanists have argued, that posthumanists must think in terms of a species cosmopolitanism. That's the term I used years ago in a book on posthumanism, that we cannot continue to make a claim for human mastery, human superiority, human hierarchic location above. We need, as Braidotti and Cecilia Ashberg have said, a thrust away from bodily ecologies and their vulnerability. So we need to consider questions of the non-human, and this is where we move from transhumanism to a critique of transhumanism, that we cannot think in terms of the human as the pinnacle of evolution. We cannot think of the human in exclusive and exclusionary terms. We need to consider that the human race's relations with humans have not been quite equitable or equal, and we need to address that. We cannot think in terms of just human advancement, which may come at the cost of what happens to the non-human and the non-living. So for many of the post-humanists of the second variety, which includes Rossi Braidotti and others, this sense of human perfectibility only extends, only replicates what humans have always done in history. We have located ourselves at the top of the hierarchy, we have located ourselves at the pinnacle of civilization, and have made everybody else secondary. So for the post-humanists, the transhumanist idealization of the perfectible human is an unacceptable proposition, for the simple reason that it replicates capitalism, it replicates colonialism, it replicates racism. So to make the statement, to make the claim that we should improve ourselves is often at the cost of what we are doing to others when we do this. Do we have ethical responsibilities towards the non-human? The transhumanists are not interested. Do we have an ethical responsibility towards, say, the non-living? They are not interested. Do we think of life as mutually entangled? They are not interested. So in all these cases, the transhumanists believe that we are at the center, we improve ourselves. We erase, we destroy, we take away all those flaws, and we'll be supreme. We cryopreserve ourselves for the future, and we shall revive ourselves. So what we are seeing here is that it's simply a replication of an attitude the humans have always had. And the post-humanists are saying it is this attitude that has brought the current environmental crisis, that the humans have been least bothered about the non-human and the non-living. And as a result, we now have this crisis. So the transhumanists, as a particular form of variant, a variant of the post-humanists, do create several ethical and other responsibilities. Thank you.